Dustin Poirier makes case for why Justin Gaethje's a tougher matchup for Khabib Nurmagomedov than Tony Ferguson. One of the big reasons there's been so much buzz regarding Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson fighting is because many people believe El Cucuy could be the first man to hand the champ a loss. But recently, Dustin Poirier outlined again why, in his opinion, Justin Gaethje has a better chance at spoiling Nurmagomedov's spotless record. On account of both Nurmagomedov's and Ferguson's abilities, many believe that if and when they finally fight, it could be the greatest lightweight title fight in history. After all, due to his skills, Nurmagomedov has never lost, and Ferguson is riding a 12-fight winning streak thanks to his martial arts pedigree. While Poirier has argued in the past that he thinks Gaethje would be a tougher test for Khabib, and during an interview with ESPN recently, he repeated that theory. Here's some of what the former interim champ had to say.
I think Gaethje does. I've said it since the beginning, yeah.
Why?
I just think the wrestling pedigree. Dude, look, I'm not just trying to be a dick here or talk bad about these guys, but if I thought Tony, this was a while back, but I thought Denny Castillo beat Tony. I thought Denny won that fight. I thought he out-wrestled him. If Kevin Lee and Danny Castillo are putting you on your back at will, dude, Khabib is going to do that whenever he wants. I promise you. You know, I know this. And the people saying Tony's going to damage Khabib, and you, dude, to get a stoppage from your back with elbows, it could happen, but it's going to be so tough. The cut's going to have to be perfect, you know, and the submission off your back against Khabib from guard or something, I just don't see that happening. You know, maybe in a scramble you can catch him in something funky, but if he's taking you down and he's in your guard or he's on top of you, submitting him from your back, I just don't see it happening, man.
So what can Gaethje do?
He can stop the wrestling. He can use his wrestling to stop Khabib's wrestling, get him tired down, and throw those crazy shots and land something. That's what I think could happen.
Now sure, some might argue that Poirier is just saying this since he beat Gaethje in 2018 and lost to Khabib last year. In other words, if Gaethje were to beat Khabib, it would make Dustin's win over him look that much better. But Poirier does make some interesting points about Gaethje's wrestling game. While Tony is also an experienced wrestler in the NCAA level, Gaethje is former NCAA Division I All-American. He just doesn't use his wrestling much in his fights since he prefers to strike. You could also make the argument that Gaethje has more punching power than Ferguson. So what do you guys think? Is Gaethje a more dangerous matchup for Khabib on account of his wrestling and heavy hands? Or does Ferguson's unorthodox striking, dangerous guard, and sneaky chokes pose more of a threat to the champ? Conor McGregor takes poke at Khabib Nurmagomedov over UFC 249 withdrawal. Champ's manager fires back. Earlier this week, Khabib Nurmagomedov released a statement in which he all but confirmed he won't be at UFC 249 to battle Tony Ferguson. Well, not surprisingly, Conor McGregor took the opportunity to trash his rival, but it was Nurmagomedov's manager who was quick to fire back. Recently, Nurmagomedov reported that he is indeed in Russia and that as a result, he has no way of attending the April 18th card. Russia banned all travel in and out of the country due to the coronavirus, not long after Nurmagomedov returned to Dagestan from the United States. Well, Nurmagomedov's statement was taken as a confirmation that his bout with Ferguson is off, marking the 5th time a fight between the two has been cancelled.
Like right now, if they give me location, if I can come out from Russia and I can go to in any countries like US, Abu Dhabi, doesn't matter. I'm gonna fight 100%. 100% I'm gonna fight. Just give me location. Every day I send Dana White message. Hey, where's my location? You know, it's like, this is not my mistake. And you know, like too many crazy stuff, too many questions. I don't have answer.
Not long after news of Khabib's statement broke, McGregor tweeted out these comments. The fact of the matter is both Tony and Khabib were engaged in a game of chicken here towards the fight bell, McGregor added, with Khabib chickening out first, making it 3-2 in pullouts in Tony's favor. Khabib scurried out of the US to home and amid the crisis. Very high risk. Congrats, Tony. I'm in shape to fight right now, McGregor wrote. At the beginning of all this, I said to myself, I'm happy I don't have an official fight book. If I did, I would have consumed all the incorrect data to support me taking part in the bout, and I would have followed through, competed, and won. Well, McGregor's attack on Khabib prompted this response from his manager, Ali Abdelaziz. Earlier in the week, you told everyone to stay in. When you fought Khabib, you said you were not in shape and your foot was a balloon, and now you're in shape. The more you talk, you're digging yourself deeper and deeper. Stupid ass. Now, it is true that McGregor has been very active in telling his fellow Irish citizens to stay indoors as a means to battle the pandemic. So does McGregor really believe that Khabib is running from the Ferguson fight? Maybe. He could also be just using the situation to get at the champ. Nurmagomedov pushed hard for a bout with Ferguson after he submitted Dustin Poirier in September, and even after he tapped out McGregor in 2018. Further, he's agreed to fight Ferguson 5 times now, so it's hard to imagine that he's ducking El Cucuy. The champ has claimed that he was told by the UFC that the April 18th card was likely headed for the United Arab Emirates. So according to Khabib, he and his team headed there before going to Russia but couldn't get in. Even if the UFC didn't tell Khabib that the UAE was likely, it would be hard to fault him for wanting to be with his family in Dagestan as the pandemic continues, right? What do you guys think? Is Nurmagomedov really running from Ferguson?
When I smashed him last time, he said my foot is blame or something like this. It was not my good shape. How he right now is good shape? How we can talk about shape? When I smash his face when he tapped, he say it was my bad shape. I was without shape, blah blah blah. Now we talk about I am good shape, I can come in. Okay, couple days ago he sent message, hey people, please take care of your family, be safe, stay home. Government asked us stay home. Couple days ago. Now we talk about I'm good shape, blah blah blah. Someone had to fight, someone had to fly. Like, I know this is like fate. For me, it's fate. I was always real. Maybe someone like, maybe someone don't like. This is not my job. But I was always real. But this guy's fake.
Alexander Volkanovski explains why Max Holloway rematch likely isn't going down at UFC 251 as expected. It looks like another all-star UFC matchup has probably been postponed due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. As recently, Alexander Volkanovski outlined why he's leaning against fighting Max Holloway again at UFC 251 as a result of the troubling situation. Volkanovski ended the championship reign of Holloway in December by handing the Hawaiian star a decision loss. Due to Holloway's run as the featherweight champ, most people predicted the UFC would look to run it back. The expectation was the two would battle again at UFC 251, June 7th, which is taking place in Volkanovski's nation of Australia. But while talking to ESPN recently, Volkanovski reported that the rematch with Holloway likely won't be part of UFC 251 after all. Here's some of what the champ had to say about why. To be honest with you, nothing was signed, nothing was locked in, Volkanovski said. Everything was pointing towards Perth, but we're still not sure whether it's going to go ahead or whether it's not. But I'm in a weird position where I'm being quarantined, not being able to train properly, not being able to get over to New Zealand. So are we still going to be doing that card? I just don't think that's a good idea for me, especially coming off a broken hand. For me to try and overcome an injury and then go into camp and not be fully prepared in the camp, it's not a good idea. So I don't think the Perth card will go ahead, but if it does, I don't know the chances of me being on it. So yeah, based off of these comments, it really doesn't sound like Volkanovski plans on fighting at UFC 251. Do you guys think he's making the right call? There's no question that due to the restrictions the coronavirus is having on fighters' lives, whereby they can't travel, train with many people, etc., it's not surprising to hear Volkanovski say this. Further, you have to really wonder if the event will take place at all. The coronavirus outbreak is continuing and many observers are predicting restrictions on travel and public gatherings could still be taking place until the end of May. So if UFC 251 does proceed, only Australian fighters would likely be able to compete at that event. While discussing his current training regimen on account of the pandemic, Volkanovski said this: "We'd come from America, even though the self-quarantine rule wasn't in yet, we decided to not train with others, so we just trained with each other. We just hit pads and we're doing whatever we could. We didn't go out and do any strength and conditioning at the other place gym. I'm trying to take all the precautions I can because coming from America, they were saying you were higher risk. So even though we didn't have to self-quarantine, we thought it was best to do that, and we've been doing that ever since. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, the spread of the virus slows, normal life resumes, and we'll get to see some UFC cards sometime this summer." For our next story, we have Dana White getting sued for allegedly breaking hush money deal in extortion case. Let's get into it. The suit, which was filed this past Friday on behalf of Ernesto Joshua Ramos in Clark County District Court, alleges Dana White and UFC attorneys broke a contract to compensate Ramos for signing a non-disclosure agreement that shielded the promoter and the UFC from potential financial losses and embarrassment months before the company was sold for over $4 billion. The NDA he signed was in exchange for pleading guilty to a single felony extortion charge, which prosecutors filed after he was caught accepting $200,000 for a video of Dana White having with his girlfriend, an exotic dancer, at the Spearmint Rhino Club in Las Vegas. The lawsuit states the actions of White were fraudulent, oppressive, and designed to encourage Ramos to plead guilty so he could negotiate a substantial settlement which would prevent the disclosure of his actions at trial for the personal benefit of White and his related businesses and interests. Ramos believed the agreement was worth up to $1 million during initial negotiations, but alleged he was offered $450,000 by White after the initial breach of the agreement in April 2016. But he alleges that during a mediation setup just 3 months before the UFC was sold, White reneged and offered nothing. The Las Vegas resident now seeks damages in excess of $65,000 on multiple breach of contract and good faith claims in addition to punitive damages. While UFC President Dana White has responded to the extortion lawsuit that was filed against him by Ernesto Joshua Ramos last Friday evening. I just found out that a bullshit lawsuit was filed against me yesterday. This guy went to federal prison for trying to extort me over 5 years ago. Now he's hired a lawyer who is also a convicted felon, and he's trying to extort me again for $10 million. He got no money from me last time, and he won't be getting any money from me this time. I look forward to the court dismissing this quickly so I can get rid of these scumbags forever, White said in a statement to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The criminal case kicked off after the businessman named by the prosecution paid an exotic dancer at the Spearmint Rhino $200,000 to dance and have sex with him in the private room. The businessman then flew the dancer to Brazil and she filmed a sexual encounter. Ramos' complaint calls his girlfriend's work for White Entertainment and notes the promoter paid her $5,000 prior to the trip and $10,000 after returning to the US, though only $8,000 made it into her pocket. What do you guys think? Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below.